So we've been studying education for most of the year. We started off by thinking about our own view of school, what it was like, whether it's good, whether it's bad, the people that are involved in our education, in order to start thinking about the purpose of education. So for this part of the unit, we need to understand the role and purpose of education according to the key theorists. So you'll need to give some examples of the role of education, so what is the point of it, apply it to some experiences, and then compare it to other views from the past and from the present of how school serves us today. So there's a couple of YouTube clips which you can go on and have a look at. We can consider the example of Grange Hill, the classic PE teacher and the classic experience of first days and bullying and experience, and also that of the students in Harrow School, where you have a very exclusive school that is available for people who have the finances to be able to send their children there. So we compare our comprehensive, our current school, where there's no entrance requirements. You can just live within the catchment area, the local area around the school, and it's open to anybody. Whereas places like Harrow School, a really significant difference, more open to middle class parents, more upper class really, costing about £10,000 a term. So an interesting watch if you have time. But we thought about how those experiences compare with our own, and we felt that the comprehensive school, the example of Grange Hill, was probably more closely related. There's lots of kind of rituals and different norms and values within a private school, and we felt that they're really different from our own. So in terms of the theories that we'd associate with each, we'd probably think about a Marxist perspective, looking at Harrow School and the elite and the exclusivity of, if you have money, you can choose wherever you want to go to school and possibly get a superior education, with private schools achieving much higher results than state schools. In terms of functionalism, they would suggest that we've got a good divide between people. So it's actually a good thing in society that we have people going to these elite schools, because we need people to be running the country and businesses, and we need them to have a good education so they can tell us what to do, so that we can be passive people, like Wrong said, passive to what they're saying and accept our subordinate position. In terms of the purpose of education, we had a little look at different things, and we basically did a dotocracy. So we looked at the following things. We looked at why we need education: qualifications, socialising, learning skills, following instructions, controlling your time, getting good jobs, stopping children from working too young, writing essays, and preventing people from enjoying their childhood. So we actually looked at all those different things, and this is what we did the dotocracy on. We decided which ones were the most relevant. Pretty much everybody said it was about learning how to write essays. Now, if you were a Marxist, you say, well, that's not a particularly useful skill for going to work, unless, of course, your job is to write essays. So that was quite an interesting one. And also you said that qualifications were important too. So our society judges you based on what grades you get, as opposed to what kind of personality you have and what kind of attitude you have. So it's quite an interesting view that you had. In terms of following instructions, maybe that's not the purpose of school, but actually functionalists would say that's part of our secondary socialisation, where we learn norms and values and we basically just do what we're told to do. Again, drawing on Wrong's idea that we're all puppets. So there's lots of different ideas about why we need education, and these were the ones that we considered. So then we started thinking about functionalist view of education. So from our views on what we thought education was about, we started thinking about what functionalists would think. So we thought about the fundamental people in our society, GPs, police officers, firefighters, prime ministers, and basically the thing that links them all is the fact that they've been educated. You need some kind of education to pretty much do anything. However, every single one of them would have gone to school. Yeah, they may not have achieved as highly as the others, but certainly they've all been to school, and that is a result of the social structures within society, which in this case is linked to the law, because they have to go. There's no choice. As we know, they've just raised the school participation age, and our current year 11s will have to be in school till they're 18. School meaning education, employment, or training in some way. Within employment, they would have to be doing some kind of training, skills-based course. So we were looking at the roles of education according to functionalists. We're going to link that to how it explains education, and then we're going to evaluate it. So we looked at all of these different job roles here, and we talked about how education would actually help you to get there. So I think it's pretty obvious for the teacher, maybe even for the doctor, but for the people who are working on the production line, working on the sewing machines on the top left there, certainly learning about Shakespeare wouldn't be particularly useful for them. Maybe drama for the statues at the bottom, and in the office job, probably ICT skills, communication skills, perhaps numeracy. However, we can't always see the clear link between what we're learning at school and the job that we do, but we do know that we need to get the qualifications to get there. The refuse collector was an interesting one that we discussed, in that actually if you're the driver of the lorry, you have to have a HGV licence, which requires some quite specialist skills, but you don't necessarily have to have qualifications to be successful doing that. We looked at how society is shaped by education, and I got you to draw a pictorial diagram of society with and society without, and most of you reflected and said that society with education was much more ordered, people were successful, they have money, they have jobs, and without education people would be bored, they'd be up to no good, perhaps causing crime. You also suggested that we wouldn't have people doing the jobs that we would need, like doctors, dentists, surgeons, teachers, etc., and that would be a problem. So Emil Durkheim, then, we've got a familiar figure here. He says that we need school to avoid anomie. We need to make sure that there's no normlessness in society, that we all remain in consensus. We need to transmit values. This is through secondary socialisation, learning norms and values. It's meritocratic. Actually, that was Parsons that said that, but that means that we achieve according to how hard we work, and you're rewarded that way. But it's also to maintain the workforce. If we don't educate, we're not going to have skilled workers, and we won't be able to have a successful society or economy. And the studies that we looked at that are linked in with these things are about to appear. So Wrong said pupils were puppets. We make sure that everyone maintains consensus so we don't get anomie. And then Durkheim said that schools are like mini societies where we learn culture, we transmit our values. Parsons said education is meritocratic, instilling competition, equality, individualism, and merit-based achievement. Then we've got people who talk about the maintenance of our workforce, Duncan and Blau, who talk of capitalism and the economy depending on a really good workforce, and also Davies and Moore, who talk of role allocation and human capital being a bank of workers who are well educated to do good jobs. And for homework, I sent you off to do this, which you can obviously try for your revision. So using all of these words, thinking about how they explain the functionalist view of society, and certainly bearing in mind that they value the development of inequalities to make sure that in society all roles are fulfilled. And that's a functionalist view of education.